start from my personal journey first anyway, from like my fitness journey, why I wanted to get into it. I was normal kid, sort of going to school, having a good time, trying to do all them things, being good in school, classes, all of that stuff. But I had a bit of I hate when people come on like these type of things, podcasts and Instagram and YouTube videos and have a proper sob story. You see it all the time, but like, like I always say this, like if you're the kid that wears glasses, you're gonna get picked on for wearing glasses. If you're the ginger kid, you're gonna get picked on for being ginger. If you're the fatter kid compared to other people, you're gonna get picked on for being the fatter kid. So that was me. Like I was a little bit taller than everyone. Like I'm 6'5" now, but like it wasn't so much, but like I stood out a little bit. And then obviously I carried a little bit of extra weight. So I seem to I seem to just get into bother all the time. And I was like singled out for that. And one of the things that always got to us and I'm going from like 8 years old all the way up in 16 was like, I was slightly bigger. I was the bigger kid. And like people just could tell that if they were going to have a go at us, that was going to be the thing that got to us. So people, you know what it's like in school. It's brutal. It is a bit savage. And like, whether it's high school, whether it's middle school, that was my thing. So I'm not going to cry about it. I'm sure people have got way harder stories than me and stuff like that. But essentially, it was a bit of like negative reinforcement that got me into being like, I think I got to the age of about 15, maybe 14, 15. I went to my first boxer size weight loss class. And it was as simple as that. It was, I remember coming in from school and like there was one day where like something had got said and I remember I was like crying at my mom and like my dad was like a ex-boxer, so he was like, why don't you go to this boxing club and like try and just use it as weight loss? You don't have to fight, you don't have to do anything, but just do all the circuits with them. So it was really like that was like my sort of from nothing to jumping in both feet and being like, right, 14, 15 years old, sick of being overweight. You're getting into high school there where you're in like, I think year 10. And that's when it starts getting like really savage. So I just wanted to not really defend myself, but just look the part at least.
Yeah.
So had about a year and a half of solely trying to just lose weight. And I had like a pretty bad relationship with food. Like I would like starve myself, then binge and then repeat because you don't really know as a kid, like compared to my education on nutrition now, what to sort of do. So it was solely because of negative reinforcement. And to be fair, everyone always asks us now, and I've actually seen some of the people in school that gave us a bit of a crap time. And like it's
I bet they don't anymore.
honestly, especially when I went on Love Island, and I'm sure we'll come on to that a little bit later, like certain people, like I remember tweets and seeing people from these exact people being like, holy shit, like we did not really, like it's funny because like one of my best friends, Ryan, who you know as well, he's like, they literally created a monster because you went from one extreme to just being the next. And standing here now, I'm glad it happened. I think something like that has to happen to trigger. It was almost an accidental passion. So from that point, sort of was in the boxing sort of scene, and then I got a bit like I was losing weight and I was like a bit skinnier then for once. And then one of my friends was like, "Oh, why don't we start lifting weights?" And to be honest, I didn't really like. I liked the boxing, but I didn't love it. I wasn't like crazy about it, but it was just more motivation for losing weight. So about like 16 years old, where we both went to school, one of the lads, he was a couple of years old, I was like, come and do some bench press and went with him. I was absolutely terrible, so weak, but I was like fairly conditioned at that point. Um, and sort of just fell in love with it. And I was like, God, I really like this. And I didn't really like the training side of it. I like the process of like, right, 4 sets of 10 at this weight and like almost being a bit of a mathematician with it, like being a bit academic with it. And I was like, right, if I can't beat people with genetics, I can beat people with like the science behind it. So I went through and I was like just like going to bed and I was like Googling stuff and I was Googling like these guys who were like stacked, but not just like meatheads that had like PhDs as well. So there's a guy called Lane Norton and he was like one of the first guys who was, I think he won one of the world records for like bench press or squatting, but he was also a doctor. And then he also brought out like a nutrition book. And then there was these couple of guys who weren't just like the stereotypical meatheads, and I just fell in love with it. So I started basically just using myself as a guinea pig, and I tried everything. I tried horrendous stuff. I tried like no carbs. I tried keto. I tried all these crazy diets, like fasting, the full lot, but just basically learning and learning and learning. And in the midst of all of this was essentially me. I was actually quite academic. I think I got like A and B in like biology, business,
All right.
biology, business, maths, and art. Believe it or not, I didn't have any sort of sport background at all
That's
at that
normal.
school. And getting pressures from a family that maybe have not been the most academic, and like I was the first one to get into university, or like one of the first ones, and you can probably relate to this as well. Like the automatic default thing is you've got in, you have to go to university, and you have to do accountancy, you have to do architecture, you have to do business or something like that. Now, business I actually am inspired about, but the other two I was like, I just thought that I had to do it because I got the grades.
Yeah.
So in the midst of my fitness journey, like from 14, 15, 16, then I'm getting into uni 17, 18. And I was going down to Leeds, and I went to go to Leeds to go and do this university degree that I knew I was going to hate for 3 years. And side by side, had this passion that I was getting better and better and better. And people were starting to like sort of take notice, like people like you and people like in the older years at school were being like, God, like we should just pay him on the side and like get him a trainer. And I didn't have a clue. I didn't know you needed a qualification for it. Didn't know you needed like PT insurance or anything like that. And I just started taking cash off like these 2-year-old blokes in the gym, and they were just like, just come and train me on your free periods in sixth form. So obviously giving an 18-year-old like 120 quid a week when he's used to working £7 an hour in like a stupid like retail store or like a waitering job or something like that. I was like, so I'm making this much money in 3 hours instead. And obviously then I'm going to go and force myself to be a student and live off nothing for 3 years. And obviously I actually went down to Leeds for a month, and I remember like ringing my dad and being like, I'm going to sack this off, and I'm just going to come back up and try and start a PT business and find out about it. And that was pretty much it. The rest was history. Came up to Northumbria University and came and did like a really intense 3 month. I think it was every weekend for 3 months. You had to be in Saturday and Sunday. Did the PT qualification, got the legitimate stuff. And obviously at that point as well, I'd made a bit of a mad transformation. I went from being like the overweight kid at school to being like 6'5", 100 kilos, 10% body fat. And everyone was like,
who is this guy?
Yeah, they were just a bit like, oh, I was making a little bit of noise. And obviously at the same time as that, amongst all of that, it's the first time I've ever been let into nightclubs. And you just like, the first time that happens, you know what it's like, you're like into girls, you want to just go out constantly, don't you? So obviously starting a business, I'm mingling with loads of people. I look completely different. So people didn't even notice us before. They thought I was just a completely new person, even though I'd always been around there. And then like I started just picking up clients for fun. So that's how the business started. And I remember I had a boot camp of like God knows how many people in like Darras Hall, Pont, and then started going and working in one of the gym groups, which is just basically like pure gym.
Yeah. I just want to pick up a couple of things that you said there, because I think people can definitely relate to a few things that you said there. One of the first things you said was about like the adversity. So you felt like it created a monster, as in you were this kid who was a little bit overweight, a little bit picked on, and all of that. You know, that maybe spurred you on. Do you feel it when you first started training? That was like this is why you were doing it. It was like, because I need to change who I am, because I want to stop the adversity, getting all the shit. That kind of spurred you on, by the sounds of it, massively. Is that fair to say?
I think it was, I've got to say, like, I think I've still got a little bit of it. There's a time.
I was just about to ask, is it still there? Because a lot of people have similar things like that throughout their life.
I spoke about this with obviously my girlfriend Josie the other day, and she was like, you are like a bit nuts because of the way you got treated, because like you still, even at this point, even like now that you've made it, you look like the way everyone wants to look and stuff like this. She's like, you're still mental. Like I've never seen anyone so motivated to train, and like I just do it. And it's just because I think that those negative like situations that I was put in then have made me have constant motivation.
Definitely, it's got you've ignited the fire, and I think once you acting that way for a certain amount of time, it just becomes part of you, doesn't it? Now you're probably just, it's not like, oh, I need to get motivated to train today. I know what you like. You train bloody twice a day and 7 days off the time. Like it's not motivation. It's just part of you now, isn't it?
You know what it is? It's very similar. And I think I've heard you say it before. It's like, oh, you'll never make any money. You're from there. And like, or like with me, it'll be like, you'll never be the kid in shape. You're like that. I like you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's that. It's just that one sentence, and it just sticks with you forever.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. And like you say, I was told, don't set up a business, don't do sales, don't do all this. And you're right, you get a bit of a chip on your shoulder, don't you? And you think, you know what, I'm going to prove all he is wrong. But if you keep trying to prove people wrong for long enough, you can't stop. Like you've got that momentum like you have now, you're just going to continue and continue. I think that's really relatable because I'm sure the people listening and watching would have had some form of adversity in their life. A couple of other things I picked up on what you said. You said you got a little bit obsessed, or you were studying these, you know, the bodybuilders but they were also doctors. Do you still feel that it was maybe that adversity that pushed you into it? You got a little bit obsessed, and then is the obsession there as well? Are you still researching all the different techniques and nutrition plans? Are you still doing that now?
So I mean, this is not like my girlfriend again. I'm going to use her example. She hates us at night because when we go to bed, I'll put YouTube on and I will watch certain things from people that I sort of respect. And for example, last night I went and watched a 25-minute video on this guy who was in the CrossFit Games, and he trains a little bit weird. He's called like The Scientist. Sat there and watched that. Like, I'm not watching Netflix and watching stuff like that. I mean, I do to a certain extent, and I have the odd shows that I like, but I was just like, no, I want to watch this because it's been released. So I think now it's probably I'm probably kidding myself if I say it's calmed down. It's still there, but like at the start when I was fresh and I was a sponge, because I'd like to think that I know a hell of a lot more now. It was just like relentless. Like every night I was like, right, what can I do for me, and then what can I do for people, and how can I make it simpler to understand? Because if he's great, but he doesn't talk the way that I do, so I can make it accessible for the average person. And one of the things that, and I'm sure you're going to ask us about business and stuff in the same time, like one of the things that I say to PTs all the time in my gym that work sort of like with me and underneath me and stuff like that, I'm like, don't speak to people about what you care about. Like, as in, you want to walk on your hands and you want to do 140 kilogram deadlift. Like Joanne, who owns the 10 hairdressers in Newcastle, who's got all the money, she wants to just lose 5 pounds. So talk to her about things that are going to help her lose 5 pounds. Yes, you might want her to do that to get there, but you don't have to tell her that. Talk to her about the things that she's going to relate to, things that are going to click in her head. She doesn't care about doing handstand push-ups and stuff like that. She can, do you know what I mean?
And I think I was going to touch on that at the end, but I suppose we'll talk about it now. One thing I'm just going to sort of praise you for is like, so, well, I'll give you an example. Some people who work for me said, I told them where I train. A couple of the girls went, oh, I couldn't train there. I went, why? Oh, he does all them mad snatches and all this mad stuff. I went, yeah, but if you actually go to the gym, it's not just, people might think that about your gym. It's not, though. It's not just these mad, super fit athletes. There is people who, you know, who are a bit older. There's people who just, like you say, just want to lose 5 pounds. There's people who want to get really strong, get really fit as well. But I think, just to endorse you a bit, I think like, regardless of your stage or your aim, you're that good to design the strategy to suit them. And I think it's not just because they maybe see you doing all the mad stuff you do online, they maybe think everyone at the gym does that, but it's not like that, is it? It's really not.
It's like the 2%. And I always try, and I would say my biggest effort when I do social media is trying to show people that there's a scale for everything, or trying to show people, yes, like I can do the bloody gymnastic rings. I mean, not as good as a gymnast, Olympic gymnast, but like I'm doing these things upside down on rings. Of course, it's going to be intimidating. So we try to like, I definitely consciously try not to put that on. I maybe put it on stories because it's cool for me and I like want to keep track of it. And it does look cool on Instagram and stuff like that. But I don't do that with anyone else. There's probably about 3 people out of like 500 people that come in the gym doors that actually can do that.
Yeah.
So it's one of them. It's a constant battle between like, you want to be proud of yourself and you want to like impress people, but then you also want to give someone something that's relatable to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone can squat. Some people like I have my grandma squatting. Do you know what I mean? I would have her because she needs to get out of a chair. Like she wants to be able to get out of a chair for as long as she can in life. And that's the best thing about functional fitness.